Hello, this is Matt Singer. I'm the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and my guest today is Nat West. He is the namesake and founder of Reverend Nat's Hard Cider. Nat, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
I'm always happy to talk to Willamette Week.
That is always good to hear. Um, so so a couple nights ago, you've been participating in the protests. And a few nights ago, you posted some pretty harrowing photos of your daughter
Yeah,
on Twitter. Can you kind of just walk me through what happened?
we were on the north end of the fence on Salmon Street side. This is at about 11:15 or so on Saturday night, and there was there's a lot of nonviolent demonstrators, thousands. The Alberta Park gathering marchers had just showed up, so there was a lot of people. I think some estimates were there was 5,000 people there Saturday night, and uh, it's a little bit of a blur. I don't want to misspeak about exactly what happened, but there was a variety of explosions that happened near us. At times, if you've been down there, you've seen that there are protesters who use fireworks to get their message across, and that can be scary for sure, because sometimes I've seen them not always go in the right direction or intended direction. Um, so we didn't, when the explosions started happening around, you're not exactly sure what it was. There were a couple of rounds of tear gas that didn't make us move because the leaf blowers have really turned out in force. So there was some tear gas, there was some pepper, which we didn't really back away from. And then all of a sudden there was a number of explosions around us, and I had my daughter immediately to my left, and had my arms around her. And one of the explosions I felt was extremely close. I'm relatively new to to the protest world. Never been in war. I don't really know whether it's a huge explosion happening far away or a smaller explosion happening closer. Um, it ended up being a smaller explosion relatively, and very, very close. Um, Again, we're not exactly sure what kind of explosion it was, but afterwards we discovered that there were these small 1/4 inch or so hardened rubber balls embedded into her gear, melted into her gear. Um, and she had a lot of black blast powder all over her ear and the side of her face, her shoulder and neck. Her clothes and my clothes were covered in a yellow powder, which I'm not exactly sure what that was. That may have been residual tear gas. We had the luckiest parking spot in the world on 3rd and Taylor, which doesn't really happen if you show up at 9:30, but we did. So we were feet away from our car. We took all our gear off, and I was able to check her out in the relative calm of the vehicle. And she had a lot of burn marks on her shoulder, back, and neck, on the side of her face. Her helmet had black marks all over it, as well as the respirator and goggles that she was wearing. We took her home and cleaned her up. So we dealt with some flesh wounds, which are largely taken care of now, but the hearing loss, she's at about 10% hearing in her left ear, so a 90% loss. She hasn't had an audiologist appointment yet. That's tomorrow. I went to the doctor today. I had some significant initial hearing loss in my left ear, and I'm still, I'm not using my earbud. I wear an earplug in my left ear because there are certain frequencies in common daily life that cause a lot of pain. So um, she has months of rehab in front of her, and I have probably just a couple of weeks of rehab in front of me.
Before this all occurred, right before, I mean, was there anything that you could construe as provocation?
There's At that time, and like thousands of others, we were doing nothing to provoke that kind of um, attack. I don't have any reason to believe that we were targeted. I don't think that the feds were like, let's get that dad and daughter. But that just goes to show that they're completely indiscriminate in their quote unquote crowd control. The crowd control munitions they've been using have become less and less effective in time. They've been adding more and more, so it probably would have been unheard of for them to deploy 10 or 15 grenades in the course of 2 minutes a week ago, but now I think it's pretty commonplace.
What did your doctor say about all this? Did they have any opinion on the incident itself, or like I'm interested in what the reaction is from the sort of medical community when people are being admitted now for these injuries. What
Yeah.
did your doctor say anything?
Yeah, I think the first thing out of his mouth, as well as the nurse who took me in, was "Thank you for being there." And they were curious about the situation. They asked some very, uh, they wanted to know more details about who was there. I think I probably spent half the time in the office talking with him about the protest and not about my medical needs. He suggested that I not go down for a few more days and that she not go down for a few more weeks. Different doctors, I'm sure her specialist will have her own protocol. The last thing he said to me was he pointed out a very specific kind of hearing protection that he recommends that we get before we go back down there. So his, it sounded like his medical advice was to gear up, not stay away.
And will you be going back?
Absolutely, yeah. Within maybe an hour of this injury on Saturday night, we were contemplating what improvements we needed to make in order to continue to support the people who are doing that important work.
And is your wife okay with that?
Yeah, yeah, I think she is. I mean, there's nothing. Like I said, we've seen a lot worse. We've seen people get a lot worse injuries. So we went into it with our eyes wide open about the possibilities. It's still continually astonishing to me that that it's happening. You see it happening to someone and you're outraged, and then you have it happen to yourself. And I wouldn't say that I'm more outraged or my resolve is higher. My resolve peaked about 6 weeks ago. Um, yeah, and I think the important thing is that we all play the part that we have to play. And as a relatively resourceful 43-year-old man with good health insurance, and my daughter is. My doctor said that if I had sustained the injury to my ear that she had sustained, that I would have permanent hearing loss, and she'll most likely have a complete recovery. So we all can contribute in some ways, and unfortunately, some of us have to contribute with our physical health. I'm glad that white bodies could take it, and black bodies didn't have to take it this time.